This whole AI boom isn't just about the technology. Behind all the hype, there's a wild story of ambition, betrayal, and just colossal sums of money. And honestly, the only reason we're getting to see the juicy details is thanks to one spectacular billionaire lawsuit. I mean, how often do you hear a top CEO say something like this? It really fucking hurts. Those are the actual words of Sam Altman, the head of OpenAI, in a private message from 2023. This wasn't some polished press release. This was a moment of raw, human frustration right in the middle of a very public, very messy fight. So, what is going on here? Well, Elon Musk is suing OpenAI. Yep, the same company he helped get off the ground. And the court documents from this whole battle, wow, they're like a treasure trove. They are pulling back the curtain and showing us exactly what makes the AI vanguard tick. This lawsuit is telling us what's really driving this revolution. Okay, so to really get what's happening now, we have to rewind. We've got to go back to the very beginning, to the origin story of OpenAI. And like a lot of Silicon Valley tales, it all starts with this grand, world-saving myth. When OpenAI first kicked off back in 2015, you have to remember it wasn't a company at all. It was a nonprofit research lab. And its mission was incredibly ambitious, to make sure that artificial general intelligence, or AGI, would benefit all of humanity, not just a few big corporations. It was supposed to be pure, donor-funded altruism. And the founders, they took this mission so seriously. I mean, it was almost like a religion to them. In 2017, co-founder Ilya Sutskever actually wrote that his chats with another founder might be the highest stakes conversation the world has seen. They really believed they were the guardians of our future. But then, that's when those big, shiny ideals smashed right into cold, hard reality. And this brings us to maybe the most important chapter in the OpenAI story, the big pivot to profit. So how on earth does a charity morph into a corporate beast? Well, let's break it down. The original mission to help all of humanity with open source research, that gave way to a for-profit reality. OpenAI jumped into a massive partnership with Microsoft. They created this new structure with a capped but still huge 100x return for investors, and they rejiggered the whole thing as a hybrid called a public benefit corporation. So why the big switch? Well, these court documents suggest it wasn't some accident. The shift was driven by four really powerful and, let's be honest, pretty familiar forces. The same forces that are pushing the whole AI industry towards something that looks a lot less revolutionary and a lot more like, well, normal capitalism. So what are these four forces? They're actually pretty simple, and we've seen them a million times before. Raw self-interest, fierce competition, the never-ending need for capital, and a pretty revealing lesson from recent history. All right, first up, self-interest. While the public story was all about saving humanity, private diaries were telling a very different story. This quote, which Musk's lawsuit dug up, is from a 2017 diary entry by OpenAI's co-founder Greg Brockman. He literally asks himself, what will take me to $1 billion? So yeah, personal wealth was definitely on the mind from early on. And Brockman is definitely not alone. Remember Elon Musk, the guy who started as a donor? Well, now he's demanding up to $134 billion from his initial donation. This isn't about charity anymore. It's a fight for a history-making payday. The second force is just classic competition. OpenAI is in this absolutely brutal race with rivals like Anthropic, the company behind the Claude chatbot. And when you're in a dogfight for market share and just plain survival, all those fuzzy, high-minded promises about humanity, they're destined to become what the source material calls window dressing. The third force? Capital. It's all about the money. Training these gigantic AI models is astronomically expensive. So to even stay in the race, these labs need billions and billions of dollars. And when you take that kind of cash, guess what? Your investors demand returns, not world-saving philosophy. All of a sudden, cash flow targets become way more important than safety concerns. And finally, there's the lesson from recent history, specifically the ESG, environmental, social, and governance movement. Just look at the parallels. They're kind of shocking. Both had these dire existential warnings. Both used new kinds of corporate structures like the Public Benefit Corporation, and both made these big pledges to serve more than just their shareholders. But the whole ESG wave, it's kind of faded, which really makes you wonder if the piety of the AI boom might fade too. So, what does this all mean? If the leaders of the AI revolution are really just normal capitalists dressed up in world-saving robes, then what is the real risk we should be worried about? It might not be what you're thinking. We're constantly hearing these scary stories about a sci-fi extinction-level event. But if these AI bosses are driven by the exact same forces as any other business leader, then maybe the real risks are the ones we already know all too well from capitalism, just blown up to a massive new scale. And that brings us to a classic economic cycle that we have seen over and over and over again. First, you get a massive explosion of hype. That leads to a frenzy of overinvestment. And what has historically followed that kind of mania? An eventual and often very painful crash. Now look, a market crash in the AI sector, that's not the Terminator coming to life, okay? It wouldn't be the end of the world like a rogue superintelligence might be, but let's be really clear. For the economy, for people's jobs, for the millions who have put their hopes and their money into this boom, it would still be incredibly painful. So after you strip away all the epic talk of saving humanity and creating artificial gods, we're left with one really provocative question. Is the biggest and most immediate danger from AI not some sci-fi apocalypse, but a very human and very predictable financial bubble?